Hi, good evening, and welcome to the Petra Destinee program. This evening, we're going to be talking about homosexuality again, because basically we did not finish up our discussion, and even tonight we're still not going to finish the discussion that I would really love to have. It's so much information that we need to talk about. But before we do that, I'm going to definitely pray. So, dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for you are good and you're great. And Father God, you give us wisdom to be able to give information out, and that, Lord, that the information that you have given, Lord God, will be taken in the light that it is. You know, just being helpful and not to hurt anyone, Lord God, and that we're going to do things that, you know, are pleasing to you and in your sight, Lord. So give us revelation, give us insight, give us wisdom, and help us to be all that you've called us to be, because you created us. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. So again, our topic again is homosexuality. And first of all, you know that, again, I talked about, I'm not saying this to be, you know, judgmental. I'm not saying it to be mean. I'm not saying to be rude. I'm not saying any of those things. All I'm saying is that when people say that you are born homosexual, that is not true, okay? And so there's no evidence to back it up, okay? So therefore, I'm showing that there are other reasons that one becomes homosexual. And so last week we talked about some of those issues. Again, I say that I love you and I care about you, and that is why I'm bringing this information to you out of love and out of concern for what's going on in our communities and in our world. We want to make sure that, you know, everyone is doing okay and everyone is being taken care of. You know, we have to take care of you, and you're my people, so I love you, okay? Again, we must separate the who from the do. If I talk about the act, it's the act that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about you as a person. I'm talking about you as the act that is being done. And just as a mother or a father would reprimand a child for doing something that's inappropriate, again, we're saying that, you know, that may not be the wisest things to do. And so therefore we're giving you reasons why it could happen, and for you to just take it at face value and also do your research, and, you know, and then also search among yourself. If you happen to be a person that is like that, then think about your childhood. Think about things that may have happened to you while you were a child and you didn't know, but it happened. And now, you know, as you go back and you trace yourself, you'll say, oh yeah, that's probably why. Okay, so not bashing you, love you, love you, love you, love you. But, you know, we have to bring the truth out, because there's a lot of information that's going forth, and people do not want to hear truth. You know, they rather believe lies than the truth. And so therefore, we want to have everything open. Everybody needs to know everything. Okay, and I know a lot of people do not go and do research, okay, but I did the research for you, and I'm also asking you, don't take my word for it. Please go ahead and go do your research. This is what it's all about. You know that I know that you all are the enlightened ones, because you all love to do research and you love to hear what's going on and you want to be in the know. So you do your research as well. Don't take my word for it, okay? But I just don't want everything that's being bombarded at us right now, and then we have to take it and accept it because it's not the truth, okay? So I will be exploring other explanations as to why people may become homosexuals. There's a widespread belief that they were born that way. Again, however, there's no scientific proof to back up this assertion. I am exploring the possibility that homosexuality is a result of nurture or one's environment and not nature, biological. Some of these environments include jail, prisons, foster care systems, churches, families, friends, NAMBLA. North American Men Boys Love Association, experimentation, hurt in relationships, schools, government, pornography, and the media. Its goal, homosexuality, is to destroy the family system as we know it, to render fatherhood and motherhood null and void, and to promote irresponsibility and selfishness. And so, therefore, please, again, think about these that I've said. I've talked about some of these last week, okay? But this week, I'm going to be talking about, tonight we're going to be looking at the church, government, schools, and NAMBLA. Okay, and I think that's so important. And I hope that I'm able to get through all of it because it's so much information, and I don't want to not give you everything that I have today. Well, we're going to start with churches this evening. The churches are another place that this problem happens and takes place. And when I say this problem, I said churches are where people feel secure, feel safe. There's a pastor, there's a youth choir director, there's youth ministers and so forth, and you trust them, parents trust them, and so you leave your children with them, and so sometimes that trust is betrayed by these people who are in authority. And so therefore, we are well aware of the sexual scandal of the Catholic priest, and some of us are aware that children are molested by pastors, ministers, bishops like Eddie Long, and other members of the clergy sexually. I believe in this instance, male to male for the most part, because I haven't seen the female to female, okay. Unfortunately, some people grow up in families that are less than a picture perfect, and single moms may hook up with a new boyfriend and who may be a pedophile. She may not know it, but sometimes you bring people into your lives and you believe that they're trustworthy, and you may not even know a lot about them, and you leave them with your child. You don't know what they're going to do to your child. And before it was, you looked out for your girls because you figured that the girls were the ones that were going to be the ones to be molested. But right now, the molestation of boys are on the rise, and people don't want to talk about that, and more so guys don't want to talk about because of the stigma that is attached to it, okay? So that is what we see. We all have heard of, these things, and you know what? We need to really, really think about when we send our children to churches, when we send our children anywhere, really, but in our churches, know who labor among you, and that's what God said. That's what the word said. Know those that labor among you, whether they be good or whether they be bad, or what is their inclination, what are their proclivities. Just don't leave your children with just about anyone, especially when you have to take them on different camping trips or doing different things with them, or leaving them maybe by themselves, and you may be the last parent to come pick up your child from church or something like that. Don't do that, okay? Make sure that your child's always safe. My first YouTube clip that I want to go to is the Pope Francis, and I hope that you just listen and hear what he has to say, because I think that they're trying to do something to change the situation.
Clergy, including priests, bishops, and cardinals, are pedophiles. He said his colleagues present him reliable data that, according to the latest Vatican statistics, indicates pedophilia within the church is at 2%. There are currently 414,313 Catholic priests worldwide.
It causes me distress and pain over the fact that some priests and bishops, in sexually abusing minors, violated their innocence and their own priestly vocation. It goes beyond just despicable actions.
Francis held his first meeting last week with victims who were sexually abused by members of the Catholic clergy. Pope Francis said at the time, "Before God and his people, I express my sorrow for the sins and grave crimes of clerical sexual abuse committed against you. I beg your forgiveness, too, for the sins of omission on the part of church leaders who did not respond adequately to reports of abuse made by family members, as well as by abuse victims themselves.
Hi, and welcome back to the Petra Destinee program. We just had an opportunity to hear what the Pope said. Now, you know that a while back, that there was a lot of sexual abuse and scandals, and at that time, no one was doing anything about it. They kept sweeping it under the rug, and no one was getting excommunicated or anything of that nature. But at this particular time, Pope Francis wants to do something about it, and they're actually getting together and trying to work some arrangements out to make sure that this doesn't happen anymore. So at least that there is something that is going to be done about the situation, and so we need to applaud him for tackling that where a lot of his predecessors didn't even want to touch it. So thank you, Pope Francis. The next clip that we're going to look at is called Boys Town, the Catholic Church.
Kindness and love will open the heart of any problem boy. That heart will melt within the warmth of the sunshine of love. I have really never found a boy who wanted to be bad.
Mal Burrows was 12 years old when he was placed at Boys Town in 1981 after his mother was murdered by his father.
This is your file from Boys Town.
Yeah.
The 15th of March 1983. It's a Boys Town hospital referral. You were sent to hospital on this occasion?
Yeah.
And it mentions stomach pains. What happened there?
I was right. Spoke with then director, Brother Paul Smith.
I think it's terribly important to be loved. And I think the boys who leave Boys Town can honestly say that at least they know they are lovable. And that's important.
How many of you were sexually abused at Boys Town?
We'll uncover an abuse scandal that darkens a respected Catholic institution.
If there had been some, and my lawsuit against the Catholic Archdiocese, the Catholic Church, was the first in the United States, I repeat, was the first in the United States that actually identified this problem of priests having pedophilia problems.
It's going to be one of the largest child abuse cases in history.
I meet with Cardinal Ratzinger, and to my surprise and shock, he didn't try to defend or deny. He said, yes, we know all about this problem.
Hi, and good evening, and welcome back to the Petra Destinee program. Now, we looked at this particular scenario, and this was the Boys Town in Australia. And, you know, I really looked at that and I said, oh my goodness, and these men are now, you know, pretty old right now. When this happened, they were little children, okay, and they have to live with that shame, they have to live with the hurt and the guilt and everything else. What monster would do something like that to a child? Okay, that's just out of character for any priest or anyone who's holding or taking care of children to do something of that nature to any child. That is horrible. And now, my question is, because you know what? In America, I do support Boys Town. I never knew about that, but I think that it was an organization that's there to help children and, you know, especially young men and, you know, who are out there that don't have anywhere to go and so forth. But now I'm going to take a look at this more closely. And when we're giving money to charities, we really need to know what charities are really all about. Okay, we need to do our research. And again, I you know, didn't know. Okay, so check out your charities and find out what it is that they stand for and if there's anything going on in regards to them. Okay, a question that I wanted to come up with, that I came up with is, should priests be allowed to marry? You know, I'm wondering, what do you think? You know, think about that. Should priests be allowed to marry? And do you think that would stop the problem, okay, of pedophilia or pederast, as it's normally called, pederast, which is male to male, okay? So that is a question that we need to think about, and maybe, you know, let the Pope Francis know that maybe we need to find another route, okay? My next clip would be T.D. Jakes discusses Eddie Long, and if we're ready, let's go to that clip. Thank you.
Bishop Eddie Long, when he went through his challenges and the allegations that were made against him, have you ever had a chance to speak with him?
I have tried to counsel him and encourage him during that tragedy, and really, my heart really went out. I thought that it was a tragedy that nobody wanted. You know, everybody suffered. Everybody got wounded. His kids, his family, his church, those boys, those allegations. The cloud that still remains over everyone involved in it, I thought was tragic.
You said you tried to counsel him. Were you able to counsel him?
You can counsel a person as much as you can and try to comfort them. I don't know whether you can say that they do what you say or every time you tell them what to do.
Right.
Yeah.
With the challenges that we're seeing in the Catholic Church right now, and a lot of the out-of-court settlements, what is the impact that all of this has on the brand or the perception of the church? And
well, let's start with the impact it has on the victim. Okay, let's start with the impact it has on the victim, because if we prioritize the impact that it has on the church at the expense of the victim, particularly where you're talking about young boys who are being molested, I think they have to take the priority there. And ultimately, we have to find a way to be able to move about the king's business with honor and dignity and class. And when there is failure, we have to correct that with the priority being on the victim. Now, once you do that, then the collateral damage, you have to do some reform with the church and make some other changes in order to be more effective.
Hi, and welcome back to the Petra Destinee program. And here we have it, T.D. Jakes. It's not just a Catholic thing, it happens in the churches as well. And T.D. Jakes said it so great. He said that we're not going to be, we have to tell people when they do wrong, especially a pastor who is in high esteem and has a mega church and so forth. And many people go to him for advice and the counsel and so forth. And I was told that he was vehemently against the homosexual marriage. And, you know, they say, you know, I think you do protest too much, and something was behind that. And unfortunately, he was doing something that was inappropriate with children, with young boys. And I think that, you know, if you're going to be in the public's eye and you're taking the trust that people's parents give you to be with their children, you don't take that trust and throw it away. You take that trust right now, and what you're doing with that trust is you're saying, you know what, I don't care about the family, I don't care about this child, all I care is about my own gratification, and that is not a good thing. We cannot gratify ourselves over children. We're hurting children. T.D. Jakes said, don't worry about the church. It's all about the children. They're the victims. And we have to deal with the victims because they are the ones that wake up in the night and have to deal with that at night and have to hold secrets from their parents. And, you know, it's a terrible thing. It's a terrible, terrible thing. So I'm just so upset, I guess, because when trust is given to someone who is in a position of power, and then a child just believes that the person is right. You know, children don't really question adults, and especially an adult pastor or a priest, okay? So, you know, we have to really clean out our churches, because I know Eddie Long's not the only one. He's not the only one. I believe that there are many more, and if you are, please ask God to forgive you. Please come clean, and please, you know, step down for a while and let God cleanse you of that, and let someone else who is on a different path and knows how to handle themselves, let them take the realm for a little while, because I believe that Eddie Long never gave up his pastorship. He never did. He's kept on preaching. And, you know, that's the same thing with the pastors and the priests. They don't give up the power. It's power. And they don't want to give it up, and they just want to stay there. But we have to be outraged enough to tell them to step down. That's the bottom line. Okay, so that's, you know, I'm going to move on now to MAMBLA, North American Boy Love Association. Okay, now this particular group is called, and again, we're all talking about homosexuality and how I believe that it is derived, okay, how it comes into being, because it, again, I'm saying it's not biological, but it is actually nurture. It's the environment that people find themselves in, that they believe that now they are homosexual because they were born that way and they weren't, okay? Someone molested them. MAMBLA, as it's called, and men of all ages and of high status are members of this organization that go throughout the world. And they just don't stop here in America. They're all in Africa. They're all in the different Spanish countries. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. And they're preying on young men in every culture with their money. They want to entice them with their money. And these groups of men are pedophiles or pedocrats. And they use the young boys are essentially to rape them, okay, and to have sex with them as a grown adult. A grown adult having sex with little boys. That's ridiculous. Now, when I told you, as I was doing my research, I got really, really upset as I started digging through and finding, and it was just so much stuff, and it really bothers me when people bother children. And God says it's better for you if a millstone were hung around your neck than for you to touch his children. My goodness. But repent. If you did it, and if you've done it, repent and ask God to forgive you, because he will forgive, okay? But you all need to stop this nonsense that you're doing to our children. According to Rational Wiki, NAMBLA stands for the North American Boy Love Association, and its agenda is to repeal laws prohibiting adult men from having sex with boys under age of consent, and to repeal laws regarding age of consent in general. The organization therefore promotes and in some cases practices pedophilia. Now, again, I was just looking at an article a couple of weeks ago, and this woman who is a psychologist now wants to say that pedophilia is not a crime, it's normal. Come again. Hello. Are you normal? That's what I want to say. Are you normal, my dear, when you're touching little kids? And not only that, they're teaching this nonsense in our schools, in elementary schools, trying to get our kids indoctrinated at a very, very young age. Well, the Trustworthy Encyclopedia, I'm sorry, I had to go off on my tangent, but the Trustworthy Encyclopedia says the North American Man-Boy Association, NAMBLA, was founded in December of 1978 and is an activist homosexual and pedophilia coalition group. Their primary aim is stated to overturn the statutory rape laws and reduce the age of consent. Saying it again because we have to say it so many different ways so people can understand, because I think that when we live in a world, we don't understand what's really going on around us. I mean, like, I never knew this nonsense was really going on like this until I started doing my research, and I'm like, oh my God, what is going on in America? Well, again, they want to reduce the age of consent laws that require a child of a certain age before they can agree to sexual intercourse. Okay, so, you know, I think it's 18 or whatever right now, but now they want to lower that, okay, and they want to get really, really down there. It's really, really sad. The North American Man-Boy Love Association was defended by ACLU in a $200 million civil suit. NAMBLA was sued by the parents of a 10-year-old boy, and he was murdered, and the parents claimed that the killers were motivated by materials assembled on or accessible on the NAMBLA website. So Harry Hay, who is widely credited as one of the founders of the gay rights activist movement in the United States, was a speaker at NAMBLA conferences. Harry Hay was an atheist, and poet Allen Ginsberg was another famous member of NAMBLA. So here we have it, ladies and gentlemen. We have so much going on. Please take time to listen to your children. If they tell you something, you might not want to hear that. You know, sometimes we don't want to listen to our children when they say something. They say, that didn't happen. No, if they tell you something happened, check it out. Yeah, people lie too, okay? But check it out. Check it out, okay? Because sometimes people do lie, but for the most part, we need to find out what's going on in our children's lives because they need us, and we're their protection. We're there to protect and to take care of them. The International Gay and Lesbian Archives, the world's largest research collection of gay and lesbian, bisexual, and transgender activism, has recognized several NAMBLA members for their contributions to the gay rights movement. In summation, the North American Man-Boy Love Association is a pedophile and homosexual criminal group located in the United States of America that lobbies. Okay, they have a strong lobbying group, okay? They're up there in Washington lobbying to abolish laws which protect children from sexual abuse and sexual predators. It also wants the pedophile criminals who have been caught and put in prison for sexually abusing children to be released. Now, what is the crime? Nothing, it's just children. We don't have to protect the children. Please, give me a break, okay? These children deserve to be protected. Okay, so the organization itself was founded by David Thorstad in 1978. He had been members of the Trotskyist Socialist Workers Party and president of the homosexual group Gay Activist Alliance. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to take a look at this clip. It's called "The Monsters Trying to Get in Your Children's Classrooms."
Thank you for joining us tonight. It had all the elements of a thriller crime movie. An undercover federal agent gains the trust of a dark, mysterious group, then springs the trap in a Southern California paradise. But the FBI says it was all too real, and the criminals were after sex with little boys.
I spent 26 years in the FBI. many of those years in an undercover capacity. I was the undercover FBI agent in 20 administratively approved undercover operations. I was a contract killer, a drug dealer, a white-collar criminal. I spent 3 years infiltrating NAMBLA, the North American Man-Boy Love Association. NAMBLA was my most difficult case. Psychologically, it was gut-wrenching to listen to men talk about their justification on why it was proper to have sex with boys.
If we meet and try to keep a connection, I think that's really right now where it's at. It's not a cool time for us to be out and vocal about this. I can be out and vocal about being gay. I consider myself that. I consider myself also an atheist, and I'm out about that. And but those things are different. When you go around saying you like to run your hand through a boy's hair or kiss him or do other things like that, it doesn't get the same reaction.
We met in a nondescript rehearsal hall, hardly the type of place where an organization as vaunted as NAMBLA claimed to be deserved to be meeting. To begin the conference, we went around the room and everyone introduced themselves.
My name is David. My name is Sam, or Samuel Lindblad. I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and a year and a few months out of prison.
Joseph, you want to...
No one talked about abolishing age of consent laws. They came together to network with like-minded individuals. They came together to learn where they could go to have sex with little boys.
I'm Todd, divorced dentist from Dallas.
I'm Steve, from Pittsburgh.
When I first found out about this organization, the Boy Scouts,
I'd heard about NAMBLA maybe over 20 years ago, really.
Over the years, I've been a member of the New York chapter, the Los Angeles chapter, and the San Francisco chapter.
During my 3-year infiltration of NAMBLA, I corresponded with about 165 members of the organization, all of whom were in prison. Some I sent Christmas cards, some I corresponded as a pen pal.
I have been active in the Christmas card, the pen pal program. And
their letters were graphic. Many described in rich detail what they did to little boys. This organization was hiding behind the First Amendment. A.W. Tozer said that the only book that should ever be written is one that is forced out by inward pressure. I spent 3 years infiltrating NAMBLA, the North American Man-Boy Love Association. After that investigation, that was the book that was forced out of me. I wanted to alert the world to this organization that preys upon our sons.
Hi, and welcome back to the Petra Destinee program. Again, you know, we're talking about NAMBLA. We're talking about this organization that eventually some people were brought to justice because of the undercover operation. And it's so sad that one has to go through all that just to tell people that they should not be having sex with little kids. It's sad. And then they want to groom them. So it's not like, you know, they're doing anything else. It's like they want to groom them to be just like them. And that's the sad part about it. We're going to go now to my next clip for a brief moment. And let's look at this one. It's called NAMBLA Pedophiles for Obama.
Oh, certainly. Harry Hay didn't hide his support for NAMBLA.
Okay. Bob, thank you for being with us. I understand you also took down 8 of these guys and got them off the street. Thank you for being with us. Appreciate it. And now, you know, Kevin Jennings' actions and associations have led some conservatives, by the way, including me. We're calling for Kevin Jennings' resignation. The question is, will it happen? And joining me now to discuss this is Iowa Congressman Steve King. He also is asking the president to get rid of Kevin Jennings.
Well, you just heard about the group NAMBLA. You heard about this guy that Kevin Jennings has praised, a guy that always inspired him, that was associated with this group. What are we to conclude?
Well, I think we can conclude that President Obama's agenda and his associates and their fellow travelers have been appointed to influential positions in the United States government. But this is a breathtaking reveal that you've done here, Sean, to think that. I mean, I've said before that I think Kevin Jennings has got to be the poster boy for NAMBLA, but to understand that he has also endorsed Harry Hay and at least referenced his association with him, that tells you that at least they support him and his lifetime agenda. As now he's supposed to be the safe schools and drug-free schools czar. And to think that his lifetime work has been about the promotion of homosexuality within our schools, and a lot of it within our elementary schools, and to think of this association, I can't imagine how the president can do anything if he cares about the values of America except simply fire him rather than wait for him to resign.
What do you make of him writing a foreword for a book, the queering of elementary education? And the other question is, did the White House not vet this guy again? Or do they just, or are these values acceptable? What are we to conclude?
Well, the foreword of the book of Queering of Elementary Education tells you a lot about the career of Kevin Jennings. And he also has 4 books that he's authored himself, and every one of them deal with homosexuality and focus on homosexuality within the schools. He's got a very narrow approach to this, and then I think that the president, whether they've actually vetted them or not, I think that the fellow travelers part of this thing is the vetting process. The people who advise the president have these kind of associations, and so that's what we've seen happen, Sean.
I haven't focused so much. I don't really, I'm more libertarian in terms of what people's preferences are, what adults do in the privacy of their bedroom. That's my position. I've been very clear over the years about this. But here's my problem, and this all got started because Jennings himself admitted that it was a 15-year-old boy that came to him for counseling, and because the boy was having sex with an older male and an older adult, which, as the Washington Times said, would be statutory rape. Now, Jennings said he was 15. Now, apparently, the boy, whose name is Brewster, has come out and said, no, I was 16 at the time. Jennings said it was 15. So it also raises judgment, because the only advice he gave him, I hope you were wearing a condom. I just can't believe there's not more outrage and that there's been no real questioning of the White House about this. Do you foresee this in the future? What do you see happening?
I think that if the American people rise up, they can demand that the president remove Kevin Jennings. And it doesn't matter whether Brewster was 16 or 15. Yeah. Kevin Jennings has said he believed he was 15. That makes him a mandatory reporter. And by law in Massachusetts, he was required to report the incident of sexual abuse of a child by an adult that was probably a decade or more older who had picked him up in the restroom of a bus stop. Right, so this is the kind of person that would be the model for our education, and it just cannot be tolerated, Sean.
Hi, and welcome back to the Petra Destinee program. Again, you're hearing all types of things. This is not even just on a lower level, but people in high places, in governmental places, are, moving in and trying to destroy our young men. I'm sorry. But anyways, let me get to the government now. That was a nice segue right there. Government is trying to redefine marriage to include male and male and female and female. And 36 states have become states that marry homosexuals. They are penalizing people who do not agree with this agenda, and I am still appalled and confused about how this all came about. The state that I live in, Massachusetts, and you live in is Massachusetts, and most of us live in. I know we have people all around the world that listens to this, but anyways, the states that voted against it, like Massachusetts, we were down there, we went and we stood in the freezing cold and everything else, and nothing that we said or did, could stop them because they went to the court. And the court, instead of taking it to people to vote on it, they let the courts decide, the Massachusetts courts decided that it was okay to marry man and man and female and female. And so, this is what happens. And I'm sorry to know that that Massachusetts became the first to be a part of this whole shenanigans. Well, getting back to something recent, very recent, our Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito will officiate a same-sex marriage wedding for Senate President Stanley Rosenberg. Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito will officiate the wedding of Senate President Stanley Rosenberg and his domestic partner. The Boston Globe reports this. The news was celebrated by a couple of former critics of Polito who said that she was against it at first, but now they're so happy that she is joining the bandwagon. Lieutenant Governor Polito states that her views have evolved on the topic of same-sex marriage. The former state representative from Shrewsbury used to be very anti. She was an activist, and she really came against that very strongly. And she even went as far as to signing and voting against that amendment. Okay, and she was supposed to be a woman who was going to stand her ground, but she didn't. If one holds a principle on a certain matter, does it change? And when does it change? And how does it change? I feel bad for people who want power so much that, someone tells you that they're going to make you the lieutenant governor and you're going to be this powerful person. Now you're going to change your views because you want power? That's not a good thing. If you believe something, I am not going to be sold out. You will not compromise. You stand for something, that's it. And especially, we need to stand strong against certain things. Sorry, okay? But I said, how does this woman sleep at night? It kind of makes me wonder how she sleeps at night and if she has a conscience. Because when she goes to sleep, I know that if you stood for something strongly at one point and now you compromise that, you're probably saying, I had to do it because my boss told me to do it, and, it's just like if you're working someplace and somebody tells you to do something wrong, it's your boss and you might lose your job or something like that. They have power over you and influence over you, and that should not be. No one should have power like that over you. Then we have our governor, Charlie Baker, who has stated that his brother is gay and is married to his partner. And Governor Baker feels that it is important for him to assist with the furtherance of the gay agenda. He even signed on to for the states to all become, this bastion of being, marriage, homosexual marriage. So he's signed on to that. And Charlie Baker marched in the Boston Gay Parade in 2010. And two of the homosexual activists who were Know Thy Neighbor website used to harass Christians who signed the marriage amendment referendum in Massachusetts, and they were holding Governor Baker's signs. Governor Baker was registered and paid a fee to march in 2014 Boston Gay Parade, but had a scheduled conflict and skipped it at the last minute. So he didn't run, so therefore that went under the radar. Nobody really knew what was going on, but now we know, and now we know better, okay? Now this information about Governor Baker was gathered from mass resistance, pro-family activism that makes a difference. And now we also have President Obama, and I want to talk about him and I hope I can read this letter. Okay, President Obama also, he's in a high status and so forth, and his views on gay marriages says he has evolved as well. And so I want you to see that this is a postmarked, oops, I want to make sure that you see that. I don't want you to see my address, but this is an envelope from the White House, and I hope you can see that, okay, because I don't want you to say, oh, Petra's sitting up there saying that she got a letter from the White House from Barack Obama, and, she's probably lying, okay? I'm not lying, okay? This is from President Barack Obama, and I'm going to read it for you. And this was in 2013 when I had sent out my letter to him. Dear Petra, he says, thank you for writing. From generation to generation, ordinary Americans have led a proud and inexorable march toward freedom, fairness, and full equality under the law. We must stand united to protect liberty and justice for all of our citizens, and I appreciate your perspective on lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender rights. Since I took office, my administration has worked a broader opportunity, advance equality, and level the playing field for LGBT people and communities. We have fought to secure justice for all under the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act. And we have taken action to end housing discrimination based on sexual orientation, and we have expanded hospital visitation rights for LGBT rights, human rights. We continue to engage with the international community in promoting and protecting the rights of LGBT persons around the world, because we repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Gay, lesbian, and bisexual Americans can now serve in the Army openly and honestly without fear of losing their jobs because of whom they love. And because we must treat others like the way we should want to be treated. Personally, I believe in marriage equality for same-sex couples. This is what President Obama is saying, and he says more remains to be done to ensure every single American is treated equally, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity. Now, President Obama, we're not saying that, and please hear what I'm saying, we're not saying that you need to treat people badly and that people need to be hurt and killed and harassed and bullied because of that. But we also want to say that children who are not homosexuals should not be turned into a homosexual because of the way that the lifestyle is coming on. You're even going into Africa and different places and telling them, if you do not do what we say as the American president, we're not going to give you money. We're not going to fund anything that you have to say. So he is standing up against these countries, and these countries are trying to find money to do things, and that's wrong. Okay, if they oppose homosexual marriages and so forth, then that is the country's doing. We as Americans, yes, you're sitting around talking about we shouldn't bother the Muslims, but you should not be bothering the people who have certain rights in the way that they think in their society to make that the way you want it to be. It's not going to happen, President Obama. And I'm sorry, but you know, I feel like you are barking up the wrong tree. And unfortunately, I must move on quickly, but I hope that you enjoyed that letter from President Barack Obama. Again, you see that what he's saying, he supports everything that has to do with the gay and lesbian lifestyle. Amen. All right. The next thing I want to talk about is the schools. Now, schools are a place of indoctrination, of course. They're now teaching our young babies about two mommies and two daddies in books. They are indoctrinating our children at a very early age, so they have already become accustomed to it, and they will feel that it is natural. They also have gay and lesbian clubs, and they talk about how to do the sex acts. Now, these are things that they do. According to Probe Ministries, the goals of gay, lesbian, and straight educational network strives to assure that each member of every school community is valued and respected regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity expression. And some of the ways that they go about doing this, they said the gay, lesbian, and straight educational network believes that the early sexualization of children can be beneficial. This means that virtually any sexual activity as well as exposure to graphic sexual images and material is not just permissible, but good for children. Then number two, coming out. calling one's or believing oneself to be homosexual, and even beginning homosexual sex experiences at a young age. 3, bisexuality, fluid sexuality, sexual experimentation is encouraged. 4, meeting other gay and questioning youth, sometimes without parental knowledge. 5, in this, they also hook up with cool adults. Adults, parents, teachers, and counselors are those who encourage students to embrace homosexuality and cross-dressing. 6, resources contain many hostile and one-sided anti-Christian vendettas and opinions. 7, the spirituality presented positively in Glenson resources is heavily laced with occult themes and nightmarish images. Now, we also have a conference that they had done, but I'm going to skip that because I'm getting kind of close to my closing out, and so if I want to talk about this homosexual manifesto, which I do, okay, I want to make sure that I get that in. And if I have a chance to come back to this conference, which the schools were, are there trying to indoctrinate our children, I'll get back to that. And the sad part about that? This is Boston, Massachusetts, that this stuff is happening in. So now I want to read about this homosexual manifesto, okay? And this was by Michael Swift, gay revolutionary, and this was in 1987 that this man wrote it, and you can find this reprinted from the Congressional Record of the United States Congress, okay? So, we shall sodomize your sons, emblems of your feeble masculinity, of your shallow dreams and vulgar lies. We shall seduce them in your schools, in your dormitories, in your gymnasiums, in your locker rooms, in your sports arenas, in your seminaries, in your youth groups, in your movie theater bathrooms, in your army bunkhouses, in your truck stops, in your all-male clubs, in your houses of Congress. Wherever men are with men together, your sons shall become our minions and do our bidding. They will be recast in our image. They will come to crave and adore us. Women, you cry for freedom. You say you are no longer satisfied with men. They make you unhappy. We, connoisseurs of the masculine face, the masculine physique, shall take your men from you. Then we will amuse them. We will instruct them. We will embrace them when they weep. Women, you say you wish to live with each other instead of with men, then go and be with each other. We shall give your men pleasures they have never known, because we are foremost men too, and only one man knows how to please another man. All having homosexual activity will be revoked. Instead, legislation shall be passed which engenders love between men. All homosexuals must stand together as brothers. We must be united artistically, philosophically, socially, politically, and financially. We shall write poems of the love between men. We shall stage plays in which men openly caress men. We shall make films about the love between heroic men. Cinema screens. We shall sculpt statues. Our writers and artists will make love between men fashionable and divergent. And we will succeed because we are adept at setting styles. We will unmask the powerful homosexuals who masquerade as heterosexuals. You will be shocked and frightened when you find that your presidents and their sons, your industrialists, your senators, your mayors, your generals, your athletes, your